Often the quickest way to get started with the layout of elements in our project is to just sort of place everything in an approximate locations and come back and modify their positions later. This is called actually sketch and modify. So with the grid lines that we have here in this project, I just sort of sketch them in an approximate locations relative to this surrounding building geometry. And now what I like to do is to move these grid lines more precisely and designate exactly how far they are away from the surrounding walls and from each other. Now we can do this in a couple of ways, but my focus is now on the concept of temporary dimensions, which are very helpful. What a temporary dimension is, simply it appears temporarily on screen when we are selecting something. So if I select on this grid line A, notice that in addition to other grips and controls that we had before at the end, we have these dimensions right here with a dimension on the left and another one to the right. Those temporary dimensions are editable, meaning that if I click on the number and if I give it a different number, you see it changed. Let me do a Control Z. Let me put some permanent annotation over here. Okay. Now I could put 0 for this. Okay. You see, even my permanent dimension has changed. Let's pick this one and see what we can do for this. Okay, you see the blue line. This is actually telling us this distance is our grid line distance to the surface of the interior wall. It is possible that I change this to some different things. If I double click on this grip, you see now I have the distance of the grid line to the other surface of the wall. One more time, double click. Now it is on the center of this wall. Let me just be okay with having it on the center of the line and give this a 0. Okay, so now I have my grid line on the center of our middle wall. So one more thing has left here is this one. Oops, Control Z. Select your last grid line and just give this 0. So this will go to the center of our exterior wall. You notice that the permanent dimensions have changed as well, and they are now equally divided. Okay, this should be all right. Okay, let's make sure our horizontal grid lines are located properly too. I believe they are located at the center of this line, but let's do something else as we discussed in the class. Go to the architecture and modify and align. So with align, if I pick an object and I then pick a second object, this second object will be aligned to the first object. But actually this is not what I wanted, because my grid should be located at the center of this. So I escape this and I hit Control Z. So what was wrong with that? I have a line here. I should have told the command to pick the center of the core. So I have this as the first and this one. This should be located at the center right now, but it doesn't actually seem to be at the center. So I have a second solution here. 0. All right, there we go. Let's do the same thing with the second horizontal grid line. Pick this and give it 0. Okay, one more thing you should do is that change them to numbers. Oops. Okay, I have an error here because the name is already in use. I have to cancel this. I cannot put this one for now. So let me say 1 dash 2 dash 3 dash. Let's go back here, make this A and B. Now go back here, delete the dashes. Okay. Add one more annotation over here. And one more here. Okay. We actually need this to show us the face wall. It doesn't for some reasons. Okay, click on this grip. There you go. But this is not something we were expecting. We have to change this to 22. So what is the way for doing this? Come here and you have the temporary dimension here, but this is giving us the center to center. Let's say 22 and 7/16. Or let's do something else. bring this here, bring this to the surface. Okay, double click. Now give it 22. This is still in the center. Okay, you should play around with this and figure out to make these two grips to show the face to face of the interior walls. And that should be all about it for your assignment number 1. Make sure that you are giving me the interior walls as starting by baseline level 1, and the top constraint should be level 2. Make sure that happens to all of the walls, and have a look on your south or any of the elevations to make sure about that. Okay, here I have to grab this and stretch it here. Also pick one of the levels, put it right here. All right, that should be all about it for lab number 1 to be turned in. Let me know if you have any question.